Men really benefit when your standards get lowered, and then they're going to call you ungrateful when you refuse to lower them. The bar is in hell, but it's just not low enough for some men. You're being trained to treat basic decency like it's this rare favor, and then he's going to shame you for wanting more. So you're sitting here thinking maybe you're difficult, maybe you asked for too much, maybe you should just be more appreciative because that's what everyone keeps feeding you. And then you see a guy online say his ex was never satisfied and how he's with a woman who's so grateful that he's nice to her, and you get the ick. Or was that just me? Now, I actually saw this for real on Abby Eccles' page. Please follow her. I'm going to tag her in the caption. But can you look at this comment that she got, okay? As a man, I used to listen to these sorts of things, wondering why my wife left me. I wanted to know what I could have done better because I believe myself to be a good man. But every time it sounded like this. You're a good man, but bare minimum is a death by 1,000 paper cuts. I wrestled with this for a while. I met a woman who had been in an abusive relationship like you. The same efforts that weren't enough for my ex, she thinks are the best thing that's ever happened to her. Am I God's gift to women? Of course not. But I imagine when you've been really abused, you realize that basic communication isn't too much to give your partner if you want things to work. And now I feel like I'm appreciated and I'm more happy outside my marriage than I ever was in it. I think some of these creators need to be careful pushing women to leave their good men. It's a decision you can't undo, and there is 100% a woman out there that will appreciate our efforts. Now that man, he was dragged in the comment sections, and I know why. Listen, I bet you recognize the relief in that new woman, right? You can relate to her. Right? The way that she starts to treat his crumbs like love. He's better than her ex, and I'll give him that. Now, before I go any further, I'm Lisa Sonni. I'm an expert in toxic and abusive relationships. I'm an author, coach, and speaker on relationships. I work with women every day who are trying to make sense of or leave men like this guy. Stick with me here because I'm actually going to tell you my thoughts, and then I'm going to prove that men agree with me in their own words. Now, I said you recognize her, but you recognize him, right? This guy from the comments, because he's not even hiding it. He's basically saying that life just feels easier when a woman expects less of him, right out loud. He's better than a turd, so he's a self-proclaimed good man. You know the moment where you ask for like time or his presence, something normal, and he leans back with that tone, right? God, you're never happy. You're always complaining. Nothing's ever enough for you. And then you go all quiet because now you're evaluating yourself instead of him, and that's what he wants. Your needs are the problem. His absence is normal. His sort of general contempt of you is normal. That pivot is the literal mechanism. Pay attention to it. That pivot is the game. You'll see by the end of this why she's grateful I'm nice is not a cute compliment at all. It is a power arrangement. You're going to ask him for more consistency, and he'll tell you that you should appreciate what you get. And you can feel your brain starting to negotiate with itself, right? You start tripping over your requests mid-sentence. You don't want him to flip it into something like you being needy. So you start adding these little disclaimers, like you have to prove that you deserve time with your own husband or your own boyfriend. This isn't a communication issue at all. He wants gratitude because gratitude creates this hierarchy that he likes. Gratitude makes partnership into permission, right? So when he says she's grateful, he positions himself as the gift. And that means that she becomes the lucky recipient. And she should be really careful not to mess it up with a good guy. You don't want to be one of those women that leaves their good husband that he thought he was. I guarantee you his ex-wife is like, just wait. Now, let's get really specific about what he's praising. He's praising her reaction to bare minimum, baseline treatment, and he's really enjoying the contrast, right? When a woman has lived through control and yelling and cheating and silent treatment and that sick feeling of just never knowing where he is or where you stand with him, the next man who simply just doesn't do this obvious harm feels like a huge upgrade. But he doesn't actually have to do anything of depth to earn this spot, right? He doesn't actually have to be consistent when it's inconvenient. He just has to be better than the last guy. And if the last guy was a turd, how hard is that? But culture is going to hand this guy balloons and gold stars for this. People gush over he's such a good man because he texts back, because he doesn't scream at you when you cry, because he doesn't disappear for 3 days. He does a couple chores. He did the dishes once, right? And he doesn't act like he's saving the planet. Oh, what a good man. Meanwhile, her best friend has been showing up like that for years. No parade. Her friends remember her birthday. They make reservations. They check in. They bring soup. They don't punish her for being a flipping human. Nobody calls women high-value friends for doing that because it's the bare minimum. But men benefit from that little gap in expectations. Women do this, men don't. So when men do it, oh, amazing, right? They benefit from the fact that women already know how to care. So a man doing the most basic, simple version of care, obviously that looks impressive, but only by comparison. And if you're thinking, okay, but maybe he just doesn't realize it, watch the timing. Watch the timing. The moment that she actually asks for more, she sort of stabilizes. She remembers, oh, I have standards. That chill woman that he loves so much, suddenly she's ungrateful. And I'm telling you, that shift explains. He understands exactly what he's doing. Here's how this looks while it's actually happening, because it's actually not theoretical at all. Bring yourself to your own relationship, your own house, okay? It's Tuesday night, you're in your kitchen, you bring up the thing that you've been carrying, the planning, the mental load, the way you're always the one remembering everything, whatever. You keep it simple because you've learned the hard way that you're going to give him some long, drawn-out explanation. He's just going to use it as ammunition. He'll sigh, look away. Everything you do is just turning it into a problem, right? I work hard, all this garbage. He's going to tell you things like, you just don't see what I do, right? You're defending yourself like you did something wrong. So you try to pivot back to the actual point, but then it's about your tone, your delivery, your attitude, your lack of gratitude, and everything he does for you. Always the damn victim. I swear, the victim Olympics. Men take the gold. He wants you to be grateful because grateful women don't demand change. Grateful women, they don't notice patterns, right? They don't keep score. They evaluate themselves, not him. Now, he escalates when control gets threatened. That's important to notice, right? He'll go cold if you try to stand up for yourself and hold your ground and actually refer to what he's doing as basic human decency. He'll pull away. He senses you kind of slipping and then he pulls away. He's making an adjustment. That means he knows because he's responding, trying to make sure that he keeps that leverage. Now, every time you accept that cycle as normal, I'm telling you, your baseline lowers, right? His comfort is exactly what he wants, goes right up, and the relationship becomes centered around managing him. How aggravating, right? Now, this is not just one man being an a-hole. This is a system that rewards men when women's standards get compromised. When abusive men exist, the comparison pool shifts and average behavior starts looking like excellence. And these guys love that. The guy who doesn't cheat looks all heroic next to the guy that does. The guy who doesn't scream at you, you think he's safe because he's standing next to a guy that isn't safe. If he doesn't hit you, it's like, oh, wow, well, at least he doesn't hit you. The bar is in hell. The bar is scraping the ground as you literally hear women congratulating each other for tolerating less. Women do this to each other all the time, right? Girl, at least he doesn't cheat on you. What? We need to collectively raise the bar. These men are enjoying the relief and the lowered expectations. They love gratitude for basics. That's why they do the dishes and they're like, hey, babe, look, do you see? I did the dishes because they want an applause. They want an audience. They want you to be grateful for the most basic things. They're banking on that fear that you might have of losing this great man because he's better than before. Remember, better than the turd. And the crazy thing is some of them say it out loud, like that comment I read. He said it out loud, right? He didn't even clock it as he was admitting it. It's wild. He defended himself hard in the comments, though. Man, he fought for his life. But ultimately, him and men like him, they're admitting that they benefit from a woman being trained and conditioned by somebody else's cruelty. They're admitting that they like the contrast. He admitted that it felt good to be treated like a hero for just meeting a baseline, just not being abusive. And at the end of the day, if you want to know whether a man is safe, pay attention to whether he wants gratitude for decency. It's such a tell. It is such a tell because men who actually respect women don't need you to be indebted to them. They're not in search of gratitude. Now, the part that men pretty much don't ever hide is the downward comparison they run out loud. And they use it like it is literally a credential of theirs. You're lucky I don't cheat. Some of these guys say this out loud. I know I talked about women saying it, but we've all heard these men say these words to us right out loud. At least I'm not like those guys. I don't even cheat on you. I don't hit you. All of this crap. He is choosing the benchmark. He's setting the comparison group at violence and betrayal. And then he clears that bar and it's like, oh my God, I'm exceptional. I'm a good guy. At me right on the back. The dude is an inch above garbage and he calls himself amazing. But he's not comparing himself to a partnership. He's comparing himself to, let's call it what it is, criminal behavior. That's the field that he's operating in. And when he says, at least I don't, he's telling you exactly how low he believes the standard should be. The bar is in hell. And he benefits from that. He benefits from other men being worse because it allows him to inflate his value. But he doesn't actually have to increase a shred of his own damn effort. He gets to define good as not the worst. And you're supposed to feel grateful. It's insane. Now, this pathetic framing, right? It actually keeps the bar as low as we can get it. It keeps you evaluating your safety instead of your satisfaction. Take note of that. Now, the second you actually try to evaluate him against actual partnership, and there you go, you're ungrateful again. You'll hear that those men are simps and betas or whipped or whatever because treating a woman well it's outrageous to these men. We need to wake up. We need to wake up and realize that he treats you exactly how he thinks you deserve to be treated. And women enforce this too. It's maddening, right? It keeps the bar buried, right? Let's go back to what your friends are saying. Hopefully not your friends, but some people's friends. At least he tries. At least he comes home. At least he doesn't cheat. At least he doesn't hit you. This is how the patriarchy gets to women too, right? It functions through women who were trained to preserve relationships at all cost, protects men's reputations, treat male underperformance as just a natural thing. It's the price of security. The internalized misogyny makes me want to barf. They got used to looking down the ladder because looking up costs them, right? It costs us all. Wanting more makes your life harder. So we adjust. These women figured out that if they stay grateful and they call it good enough, then things stay calmer. Calling out a man means tension or literal danger in a lot of cases. So instead, you just call other women picky instead. Being easygoing is safer. Low maintenance is encouraged by men. And while I hate the term, I actually really understand why these women get called pick-me's. Easy women get picked by trash men, and I'm sorry, but that's not a prize. Trash men are not the prize. You have got to read that article from 2025 called Is Having a Boyfriend Embarrassing? It's amazing. Anyway, after all of that just becomes, I guess, normal, you forget that there was ever another option. And I'm sorry that I have to say this. I actually love having to say this in this context. Not all men, right? Not all men think that the bare minimum is princess treatment. Get a good man or have no man. Single women are happier. The facts prove it. They prove it. So when you raise the bar, you destabilize an entire belief system. And people, mostly men, but even women, they're going to rush to push it back down, not necessarily because they hate you or they want women to be in bad relationships. They just threaten the standard arrangement that we've all had to survive in. And this is why women's standards are too high gets screamed so loudly by this group of people because women don't need men for survival the way that they used to. This isn't even news. Men are not competing against your desperation anymore. They actually have to be your peace. They have to be your friend. They're competing against your income, your ability to do life without some man dragging you back down. The shift is so real, but the backlash, it is so predictable. So go back to that early scene once again, right? You ask for more time, more presence, whatever. You want to do stuff together, more consistency, whatever small thing that you're asking for. And I'm telling you, a guy that is bad, he's going to hit you with nothing I ever do is good enough. And then you just take it because you don't want the fight. You don't want to be stonewalled. You don't want to be punished. So you're like, okay, it's fine. Forget it. Doesn't matter. That's how they train you to accept less and less. It happens slowly, right? It often doesn't just happen all at once. And then later, maybe he does one decent thing, one small effort. And you feel this desire to praise him, right? Praise keeps things calm. You think if you praise him, he'll do it again. Buys you a few hours of peace, I would say. This is me explaining breadcrumbing and intermittent reinforcement, right? These are abuse tactics. That's how the gratitude economy gets built here. He learns that you are going to reward him for basics. And you learn that asking for more costs you. The relationship is this calculation all the time where if he's comfortable, then you'll be happy. But are you happy managing his feelings and comfort? No, you're not. Your needs keep getting negotiated downward to hell, This is where this false exit shows up too, right? The one where like some friggin' women cling to it because it feels hopeful and kind of controllable. If I just communicate better, if I stay calmer, if I say it in the perfect way, he'll understand. He understands already. He responds when it benefits him and he punishes when it threatens him. That is exactly why better communication does not change the pattern. It just gives you more ways to blame yourself when nothing changes. You're still wondering if he knows what he's doing. Watch what happens when you change your behavior, because that's where the answer is. The second you stop over-functioning, he suddenly has energy, right? The second you pull back a little bit, he notices. You act like you might actually leave, or let's say you literally do leave a man like this. All of a sudden, here's Mr. Nice Guy swooping in, right? Now he's thoughtful and reflective. He finally gets it. Now he's talking about growth. Oh, I can change. I'll go to therapy. Now I finally understand. You just want me to spend more time with you. You were speaking English the whole time. Once you settle again, you reassure him that you're staying, he's going to go back to the same low effort mid-loser that he always was. It always does. This is a pattern. He responds when there's something to lose because it only matters when he is affected. And yes, to all of the people wanting to call me a misandrist, healthy men exist. They do. That's why I said not all men. You can feel one of those good men because they don't require you to be small and timid to stay with them. A healthy man does not need trauma-based gratitude because he doesn't get his power from your relief. He can actually tolerate being evaluated and criticized and expected from without turning it into disrespect, right? He can hear you say a need without whining or playing the victim or falling into this defensiveness, right? He can actually take feedback. Now, you say, I need more consistency, and he doesn't weaponize the word grateful. He doesn't call you ungrateful to shut you up. He doesn't do the whole, well, I guess I'm a terrible person performance that really just drags you back into caretaking him. He stays on the actual issue like an adult, right? The difference actually shows up. You see it. You see it in your everyday life. Even in boring moments, that's when you see it. He behaves in your relationship and out of your relationship normally in a healthy way. So if your standards are only getting met when you're threatening to leave him, you're being managed. That's it. Men benefit from other men being garbage. They get to stand next to chaos and abuse and call themselves good men for not being garbage. They get to say, at least I don't, and then to collect that round of applause for not committing crimes against women. The bar is in hell. When women are trained and conditioned by harm to be grateful for the basics, that benefit just keeps multiplying. And this is the system. And this is why it's all men until it's no men. Because the men who quietly enjoy the contrast, who accept gratitude for just decency, they are still profiting from the same structure. So if you raise your standards, trust me, I know it is going to be harsh to the men who relied on you for being so grateful. These men are in my comment sections all the time, calling me all the names. Imagine if I cared. Imagine if I actually thought an abusive man's opinion had any weight at all. I might keep that bar in hell, but nope. I'm past that stage. I want more women to be past that. Men who actually want partnership, they're going to rise. They are. The ones who wanted comparison points are going to complain, and who cares? I'm not even interested in protecting the second group. They can kick rocks, go argue with their moms. Subscribe if you're done clapping for the bare minimum. And if you're ready to rebuild your standards without apology, work with me one-on-one or in one of my group programs.